No one saw it coming, not even the family. But when Phylicia Rashad rose to speak at Malcolm-Jamal Warner's funeral, her voice shaking and eyes clouded with sorrow, the entire room fell silent. What she revealed brought fans to tears, and what she softly whispered while placing a rose on his casket has sparked non-stop conversation across the internet. This was the tribute no one was ready for. Welcome back to World of Stars, the channel where we explore the most emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories surrounding your favorite celebrities. Today's episode hits deep. A moment of raw heartbreak that left millions speechless. We're talking about the tearful farewell delivered by none other than the legendary Phylicia Rashad to her longtime friend and on-screen son, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. The connection between these two stars reached far beyond the Cosby show cameras. For years, fans admired their on-screen bond, their deep mutual respect, and how Felicia helped mentor Malcolm from a teen actor into a man deeply respected in Hollywood. But no one could have foreseen that her final goodbye would be this intimate, this emotional, and this unforgettable. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what Felicia said during her emotional eulogy, the behind-the-scenes tension that surfaced in the days leading up to the funeral, the Cosby show cast's emotional reactions, and the shocking truth behind Malcolm-Jamal's final words that Felicia boldly shared. You won't believe the details we're about to uncover, especially the footage that was captured just seconds before the casket was closed. Stick around until the very end, because this tribute reshapes everything you thought you knew about their relationship. From the very first episode of The Cosby Show, viewers could instantly feel the chemistry between Phylicia Rashad and Malcolm-Jamal Warner. She portrayed the graceful, strong-willed matriarch, Claire Huxtable. He was her intelligent, quick-witted son, Theo. But what most fans didn't realize was that the mother-son connection between them extended far beyond the scripts, cameras, and studio lights. Felicia wasn't merely a co-star. She played a pivotal role in Malcolm's real life. According to insiders, she became like a second mother to him, offering not just acting guidance, but emotional support during his formative years. Malcolm, growing up under the intense glare of fame, faced enormous challenges. And it was Felicia who reportedly kept him grounded, reminding him again and again that his value went far beyond his fame. Sources close to the show recall how Felicia often spent her lunch breaks walking around the studio lot with Malcolm, just the two of them, discussing everything from school to manhood, and how to avoid Hollywood's many pitfalls. In a 2016 interview, Malcolm confessed, "If it weren't for Felicia, I might have lost myself in all of it. She reminded me who I was beyond Theo." Those words have resurfaced since his passing, and fans now realize just how deep their connection truly was. Friends close to Malcolm confirm she was often the first person he'd reach out to during hard times, whether it was career troubles, romantic heartbreaks, or health concerns. Despite being famously private, Malcolm always allowed Felicia into the parts of himself he hid from others. She was someone he never shut out, which is exactly why when she stood to speak at his funeral, every word she spoke felt like it tore through the air, landing heavy on every heart in the room. But before we dive into the unforgettable speech itself, there's something you need to understand. Because in the final weeks before Malcolm's death, something occurred between him and Felicia, something no one was ever supposed to find out. In the days leading up to Malcolm-Jamal Warner's heartbreaking passing, something happened that would linger in Phylicia Rashad's heart forever. A phone call that, according to those close to the family, was unlike any she had ever received from him. It was a quiet Wednesday evening when Felicia's phone began to ring. She almost ignored it. It had been a long, exhausting day, but something inside urged her to answer. On the other end was Malcolm. His voice was calm, tender, yet carried a tone of finality she couldn't quite recognize at first. "You've always been there for me," he reportedly told her, pausing as his voice wavered. "I just wanted to say thank you for being the one person who never let me forget who I really am." Startled, Felicia asked if everything was all right, and this is when things took a chilling turn. Malcolm didn't offer any details. He didn't mention pain, fear, or even struggle. Instead, he simply said, "I'm tired now. Mama P, I'm at peace now." Let that sink in. A man known for his quiet strength, intelligence, and steadiness had just opened a window into his soul, and Felicia realized he was saying goodbye. According to a close family friend who spoke anonymously, Felicia sat in silence after the call ended. Clutching the phone, she reportedly whispered to herself, "No, not yet." She immediately tried calling him back, no answer. She sent a text, no reply. That night, she barely got a moment of sleep. And just 2 days later, the devastating news arrived. Malcolm-Jamal Warner had passed away. The cause was said to be a sudden drowning incident, one that's still stirring online speculation due to the unusual circumstances. But for Felicia, the cause didn't matter nearly as much as that final conversation. It was as though he knew, and had chosen to prepare her in the only way he could. And what makes this even more chilling? The voicemail. Yes, Felicia had saved a voicemail Malcolm had left just a few days earlier. Sources close to the family claim that this message was played privately at the funeral, and in it, Malcolm said something that brought everyone in the room to tears. "If I leave this world tomorrow, I just want you to know your love made me a better man. You saved me." Though fans never got to hear that recording themselves, whispers from those in Malcolm's inner circle have begun to paint a clear picture of just how deep this bond between him and Felicia really was. But what came next is perhaps the most emotionally charged moment of all, because when Felicia took the podium at the memorial, what she shared publicly left even the strongest in the room frozen in silence. The air inside the memorial chapel was thick with emotion. Every seat was taken, filled with friends, family, and familiar faces. The front row was lined with iconic figures. Cast members from the Cosby Show. Cosby Show was lined with iconic figures. Cast members, iconic figures. Cast members from the Cosby Show, producers, musicians, and legendary names from across Black Hollywood. Everyone had come to honor Malcolm-Jamal Warner, but no one was prepared for just how powerful the moment would be until Phylicia Rashad slowly rose from her seat. She was dressed in a flowing black gown, her silver hair wrapped in a traditional African headscarf. Felicia made her way to the podium with quiet elegance, and the entire room stilled. Some said it felt like even time itself had paused. She took a breath, placed her hands on the edges of the podium, and then began to speak. "I have lost a son," she said. Her voice shook. That single sentence shattered the room. Tears immediately welled in the eyes of nearly everyone present. People wept openly. This wasn't a rehearsed speech. It wasn't polished. It was raw, unfiltered grief. Felicia went on, recalling the first time she met Malcolm on set. "He was just a teenager," she said. "But even then, he carried this quiet strength, this gentle sensitivity. He didn't need to be the loudest person in the room. He didn't need to say much. Just being there was enough. You could feel his presence." Felicia spoke about the years they shared together, the holidays they spent when Malcolm's own family couldn't be around, the long conversations that happened between scenes, and even the private letters he wrote her during some of the more difficult chapters in life. But then her tone shifted. She leaned forward, her voice quiet yet fierce. Malcolm was in pain. The atmosphere in the room shifted. No one expected her to say something like that so openly. But Felicia wasn't there to protect secrets. She wanted people to hear the truth. "He carried burdens that many of you will never fully understand," she said. "He smiled for the world, but he bled in silence. He struggled, and even though he never asked for pity, I wish he had told more of us just how deep that pain went." At that moment, several in the chapel couldn't hold back their tears. It was now painfully clear Malcolm had been silently wrestling with something much heavier than anything fans could have imagined from what they saw on screen or through his social media. Then Felicia paused once again. Slowly, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a single neatly folded piece of paper. "He gave me this 2 weeks before he passed," she said softly, "and he told me to read it only if he ever left early." The room froze. Felicia unfolded the letter, her hands trembling. What she read next would be posted online just hours later. After someone in the audience, without her knowing, recorded the moment and shared it, it would go viral across the internet. These were Malcolm's own words. "If I died before I wake, know that I tried. I tried to be more than a role, more than a face, more than what they expected of me. And if I ever inspired anyone, let it be because I loved without limits. And because I never stopped trying even when I was tired." The chapel filled with the sound of quiet sobbing. Felicia gently folded the letter back up, slipped it into her pocket. and ended her tribute with this: "He was not just my TV son. He was my heart. My boy, and I will love him forever." When she stepped down from the podium, no one moved. The entire chapel rose to their feet and stood silently for a full minute. No clapping, no whispers, just shared stillness, grief, love. And what came next only deepened the emotional impact. Because just before the casket was closed, Felicia stepped forward, whispered something softly to Malcolm's body, and placed something into his hands, something that left the entire chapel in quiet shock. As the ceremony drew to a close, the energy inside the chapel was unlike anything most had ever experienced. The room was saturated with sorrow, but also filled with love, and when the final goodbye was about to be said, every eye once again turned to Phylicia Rashad. Slowly, she rose from her seat, holding something delicately wrapped in cloth. Those sitting nearby noticed it was a single red rose. But it wasn't just any rose. It had a thin gold ribbon wrapped around it, and tied to its stem was a tiny, folded piece of paper. Felicia approached the open casket where Malcolm lay for one last viewing. Every step she took felt heavy, meaningful. For many in the room, it felt like time had slowed down again. Felicia leaned forward, carefully placed the rose into Malcolm's hands, and then did something that caused quiet gasps to echo through the room. She leaned forward, gently placed her hand on his chest, and whispered something into his ear. No one around could make out the words, not the family, not the cast, not even the cameras. The expression on her face, part sorrow, part soft smile, told everyone in the room that whatever she said, it was deeply meaningful. Many in attendance later described it as a sacred moment. Some believed it felt like a mother saying farewell to her own child. Others claimed they saw her silently mouth the words, "I forgive you." But forgive him for what? That question lit up the internet with speculation. What did Felicia mean? What burden was Malcolm carrying that needed forgiveness? Was it tied to his career pressure, a falling out behind the scenes, or perhaps something only the two of them ever knew? While Felicia has never addressed the speculation publicly, a few insiders close to the Cosby Show family shared that Malcolm had in recent years grown distant from Felicia, not out of resentment, but out of guilt. Guilt over what? According to one anonymous friend, Malcolm had once confided, "I should have visited her more, called her more. She gave me so much. I don't think I ever gave back enough." That's the emotional weight he had been carrying. And perhaps in that quiet whispered moment, Felicia gave him the peace he had been searching for all along. After laying the rose down and speaking those final words, she gently kissed his forehead. It was a gesture so tender, so motherly that several people seated near the front began openly weeping. Just before she stepped away from the casket, Felicia reached for a small pendant around her neck, a golden ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol for eternal life, and tucked it beneath Malcolm's hand right next to the rose. "Carry it with you," she whispered, so softly that only one person nearby claimed to have heard it. That single moment has since become iconic. Online, fans turned the image of her placing the rose and the pendant into murals, paintings, and moving digital tributes across social media. The hashtag Rose for Malcolm began trending and stayed that way for 48 hours following the funeral. Thousands across the world uploaded photos of themselves holding red roses in his memory. Emotional tweet read, "I never knew him personally, but I cried like I lost my brother. Thank you, Phylicia Rashad, for showing the world what true love looks like." That final gesture, so intimate, so symbolic, left everyone wondering what their final conversations had truly been like. But that wasn't the end of the story, because just days later, Felicia broke her silence on social media for the first time in years. And what she posted would leave both her fans and Malcolm's followers shaken. In the days following the world's farewell to Malcolm-Jamal Warner, emotions were still raw. People were still talking about the powerful moments from the funeral, especially Phylicia Rashad's deeply emotional goodbye. But no one was ready for what came next. The famously private actress returning to social media with a message that would go viral in less than an hour. For years, Felicia had stayed under the radar online, rarely posting, rarely commenting. She always believed that the most sacred things in life didn't require constant public validation. But then, on a quiet Sunday morning 5 days after the funeral, she re-emerged on Instagram with a post that stopped people in their tracks. The photo Felicia posted was simple yet deeply symbolic. A black and white image of a young Malcolm-Jamal Warner, his head resting gently on her shoulder backstage during a break in filming The Cosby Show. He looked so innocent, so safe and so young. Her hand cradled his head, and her expression radiated quiet strength and deep affection. The caption? Just 5 words. You are always my son. Nothing more. No hashtags, no mentions. Just those words. Within minutes, the post began to gain massive traction. Celebrities like Viola Davis, Tracee Ellis Ross, Angela Bassett, and even Oprah reacted, dropping crying emojis and heartfelt messages of support. Fans flooded the comments section with personal memories and emotional tributes. Many said they'd grown up watching The Cosby Show and that the bond between Felicia and Malcolm had always felt real to them. One fan wrote, "You weren't just TV to us, you were family. Watching you say goodbye like that felt like we all lost someone close." But then something unexpected happened as the post went viral. Media outlets began combing through the comments, and that's when they stumbled upon something many had overlooked. Felicia had quietly replied to a fan who had asked, "Do you think he knew how much we loved him?" Her response stopped hearts. "He didn't think he mattered anymore. But I told him before he left he was love itself. He just didn't believe it at the time." That single comment ignited a wave of emotional responses across the internet. The idea that someone as admired, respected, and successful as Malcolm-Jamal Warner could feel like he didn't matter struck a heartbreaking chord with people everywhere. Mental health advocates, therapists, fellow celebrities, and everyday fans began reposting the quote across platforms. The line, "He didn't think he mattered anymore," became a viral phrase on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. People began opening up, sharing their own silent battles with self-worth. Comment threads became spaces of healing and support. In one viral video, a young man stared into the camera, clearly emotional, and said, "If Malcolm didn't think he mattered, then maybe we need to tell the people we love that they do before it's too late." The ripple effect was undeniable. Fan pages began turning Felicia's post into artwork, posters, even t-shirts. Murals started appearing, especially ones centered around the phrase, "You are always my son." But what moved people most was what Felicia posted next on her Instagram story. Just 24 hours later, it was a simple black screen with soft piano music playing in the background. Written in white text was a single haunting message: to every soul who ever felt unseen, Malcolm was one of you and he was extraordinary. So are you. That post was shared over 2 million times within just 48 hours. Her gentle yet powerful words quickly turned into a movement. Mental health organizations reached out to partner with her. Fans launched a scholarship in Malcolm's name. Teachers, counselors, and community leaders began using his story as a way to inspire and protect young men of color, especially those dealing with depression, identity struggles, and emotional pressure. And all of this began with one post, one tribute, one loss. But the story didn't end there. Just as the emotional waves surrounding Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing began to calm, something surfaced online that stirred the heartbreak all over again, reminding everyone how profound his bond with Phylicia Rashad truly was. A short, never-before-seen behind-the-scenes video reportedly captured by a crew member during the final season of The Cosby Show began circulating on social media. It wasn't a polished clip. The footage was a little grainy, the audio imperfect, but the moment it captured, unforgettable. In the clip, a young Malcolm, likely no older than 20, is shown sitting on a folding chair between takes. He looks worn out, eyes heavy, hands resting between his knees. Felicia walks over and kneels in front of him and places both hands on his shoulders. At first, her words aren't fully clear, until she leans in and softly whispers, just loud enough for the mic to catch, "You don't need to be perfect to be loved, baby. You just need to be real." Malcolm slowly lifts his eyes, visibly emotional, and replies with something that stunned everyone who watched. "You're the only one who sees me." That one line, "You're the only one who sees me," broke the internet. The clip instantly went viral. It was reshared by actors, therapists, mental health professionals, and spiritual leaders. It became a deeply moving reminder that even someone as calm, collected, and charismatic as Malcolm was fighting private battles, and that Phylicia Rashad had always seen beyond the mask. Several fans began stitching the footage together with clips from Felicia's funeral speech, creating emotional video tributes that made it nearly impossible to watch without crying. One such tribute ended with these words: "She saw him when he was alive, and she held him when he was gone." That final behind-the-scenes video felt like a gift, one last glimpse into a sacred bond that shaped not only two incredible souls, but generations of viewers who grew up watching, learning from, and loving them. Conclusion: why this tribute meant more than we realized. Phylicia Rashad's tribute wasn't just a farewell. It was a wake-up call, a call to check in on the strong ones, a call to love louder, deeper, and more intentionally. It reminded the world that behind every smile may be a silent battle, and that the greatest gift we can give one another is to truly see each other. Malcolm-Jamal Warner may no longer be with us, but through Felicia's voice, his memory has become more than just a legacy. It's become a message, a movement, a mirror. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Share your memories, your favorite Theo Huxtable moments, or your thoughts on Felicia's powerful tribute. And if someone you love is struggling, don't wait, reach out, tell them they matter, because sometimes that's all it takes.